Right, diving right in today, revisiting a case that I'm sure, well, you requested this deep dive, so you probably already know about, but it's one that shook America, the kidnapping and murder of Polly Klaas.
Back in 93.
Yeah, 1993.
A long time ago.
It was, and you know, we're going to explore how this awful tragedy, how it ended up giving rise to California's controversial three strikes law.
Right.
And I think what's really fascinating about this case is it wasn't just a horrific crime. It really kind of sparked this nationwide debate about crime and punishment.
Absolutely.
And we're still wrestling with that today.
Still dealing with the fallout.
Yeah, still dealing with the fallout, still trying to figure out, what is justice?
Yeah, and what's so interesting, too, about this case is how it all unfolded in the really early days of the internet.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
I think about it, before Amber Alerts, before instant news updates. I mean, when something like this happened, fear and uncertainty, it just spread through communities.
Like wildfire.
Right.
And it was a totally different world back then.
It was a different world.
Can you maybe, just for our listeners, kind of set the scene for us? What was America like back in 93?
Yeah, I mean, in a word, fear.
Yeah.
Crime rates were incredibly high, and there was this palpable sense of fear.
Especially
regarding crimes against children.
Yeah.
And the Polly Klaas case, tragically, it became a symbol of all of that anxiety.
Yeah, and into this already tense atmosphere, you have Polly Klaas, just this ordinary 12-year-old girl having a sleepover with friends.
Right.
And the ordinariness of it, I think that's what makes it so terrifying.
Absolutely, because it could have been anyone's child.
Right, anyone's neighborhood.
And the details of the crime itself are they're chilling.
Yeah.
This man breaking in, forcing these young girls to wear pillowcases as hoods. I mean, it speaks to a level of depravity that just shook people to their core.
And 4,000 volunteers. I mean, think about that.
4,000.
Join the search for Polly. It was this massive, massive community effort.
It's massive.
And it was fueled by, hope and this desperate need to find this little girl.
Desperate.
And even the early internet, it played a role too, right?
It did, yeah.
With people sharing information, updates.
Trying to get the word out.
Yeah, and I imagine every minute just felt critical.
Oh, absolutely. And, you have to remember that in child abduction cases, the first few hours, statistically, they're the most crucial for a safe recovery.
That's right.
And so the case really highlighted the need for immediate action and the importance of community involvement.
Yeah. Sadly, though, despite all those enormous efforts, the search for Polly, it ended in tragedy.
It did.
Richard Allen Davis, the man who was responsible, he had a long and disturbing criminal history, didn't he?
He did, very long.
And I think that becomes a really crucial point in the three strikes debate, right?
Absolutely. I mean, his past is key to understanding the whole debate.
Okay, so tell me about that. What was it about his past that was so disturbing?
Well, I mean, he had spent 14 of his 20 adult years behind bars for crimes ranging from burglary to assault and even attempted rape.
Wow.
I mean, you look at that escalating pattern of offenses, it really raises this question.
Yeah.
Should he have been allowed back on the streets after so many chances?
Right, right.
And even before his arrest, I mean, there were red flags.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that chilling encounter that he had with Dana, the woman whose property he got his car stuck on.
Oh, right.
He was out, quote unquote, sightseeing at midnight with this young girl in his car.
With a young girl.
Yeah, I mean, even the babysitter sensed something was off about this guy.
Yeah, that encounter, it's almost like a microcosm of the entire case, isn't it?
It is.
It raises all these questions about, missed opportunities for intervention.
Yeah, like could someone have recognized the danger signs and acted?
Right.
I mean, could Polly's abduction have even been prevented?
It's a question that haunts a lot of people.
And then even after Davis was caught, he continued to deny any involvement.
Right. First, he denied everything.
Oh, wow.
Then he tried to blame it on drug use.
Oh, wow.
It was only when they confronted him with the palm print evidence that's when he finally confessed.
And even then, there was no remorse.
No.
None.
No remorse at all.
No. I mean, his behavior after the guilty verdict, it was shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, the middle fingers to the camera, the wink, it solidified that public perception of him.
As a monster.
As a remorseless monster.
Yeah.
And it just fueled this growing sense of outrage and this demand for harsher punishments.
Yeah, and that leads us right into the three strikes law.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we're going to save that part of the story for part 2 of this deep dive, so stay tuned. Okay, so picking up where we left off, with Davis's conviction and this just overwhelming sense of outrage.
Yeah,
This is where the three strikes law comes into the picture,
it
right?
does. It really does.
And driven by, just unimaginable grief and anger.
Right.
Polly's father and another grieving father, Mike Reynolds, who lost his own daughter to a repeat offender.
Mm.
Yeah.
They really became powerful advocates for change, didn't they?
Absolutely. They were really the driving force behind this movement.
And Polly's case, it became a lightning rod.
It did.
It ignited this national debate about, crime and punishment.
A very heated debate.
A heated debate, yeah. And people were demanding action.
Right.
Something, anything, to prevent these kinds of tragedies from happening again.
Absolutely.
And California, already kind of known for its tough on crime stance,
Right.
responded with the three strikes law.
They did.
And the idea, I mean, on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, 3 felony convictions, doesn't matter what they were, and you're looking at 25 years to life.
Yeah, it sounds simple enough, but, we've seen this in other areas of law. Straightforward doesn't always mean fair or effective. So
Right.
were there any concerns raised about the law's potential downsides at the time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there were critics right from the start who argued that the law was way too broad.
Too broad, how?
It didn't really distinguish between violent and nonviolent crimes.
Right.
And they predicted that it wouldn't actually deter violent crime,
Mm.
but it would just lead to this massive surge in prison populations filled with people whose third strike was something relatively minor.
A nonviolent offense.
A nonviolent offense, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, raised concerns about the racial disparities in sentencing.
Yeah, that's a huge issue.
Huge issue, pointing out that, Black and Hispanic individuals,
Yeah.
they were disproportionately impacted by this law.
Yeah, and those concerns, they turned out to be pretty valid, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
I mean, there's some truly shocking examples of people serving life sentences for what seem like relatively minor offenses.
There are, yeah, and the case of Jared Dwayne Williams, I mean, it's a prime example.
This is the pizza guy.
The pizza guy, yeah, he was sentenced to 25 years to life for stealing a slice of pizza.
A slice of pizza.
A slice of pizza. I mean, it sounds absurd, right?
It does.
But it highlights this real flaw in the way the law was being applied.
Yeah, so tell me about his case. I mean, what happened?
Well, he had 2 prior felonies,
Okay.
but neither of them involved violence.
Okay.
But because of his past,
Right.
this minor theft,
Yeah.
it triggered the third strike.
Wow.
And he ended up with this life-altering sentence.
Life sentence for a slice of pizza.
For a slice of pizza, I mean, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, and Williams wasn't alone, was he?
No. Unfortunately, there are numerous cases like this.
Okay, give me some other examples.
I mean, you have Dwayne Silva. He received 30 years to life for stealing a video camera.
Right.
And some coins. Michael Garcia got life for shoplifting a $5 package of meat.
A $5 package of meat.
Yeah. I mean, these are just a few examples, but
Wow.
they illustrate this pattern.
This pattern of disproportionate sentencing.
Yeah, exactly.
That critics had warned about.
That they warned about from the beginning.
And so did anyone actually benefit from this law?
That's a good question.
I mean, did crime rates plummet like its supporters had hoped?
Well, the thing is, crime rates were already on the decline.
Oh.
Before the 3 strikes law was even implemented.
So it's hard to really isolate the law's impact.
Very difficult, yeah.
So, but I mean, there have been studies, right?
There have been, yeah.
So what have those studies shown?
Well, they've shown that it didn't really have a significant effect on deterring violent crime. And in fact, some studies even suggest that it might have actually contributed to an increase in certain types of crime.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, because if criminals know that they're facing a life sentence for any third felony, no matter what it is,
Right.
they might be more likely to resort to violence.
Oh, I see. To avoid getting caught.
To avoid getting caught, exactly.
It seems like a classic case of good intentions gone awry.
It does, doesn't it?
The desire for safety and justice leading to a system that in some cases produced its own kind of injustice.
Exactly.
And I think the 3 strikes law really raises this fundamental question about the purpose of punishment.
Right.
I mean, is it about retribution?
Mm.
Just locking people away for their past deeds?
Right.
Or should it also be about rehabilitation?
Yeah.
About giving people a chance to turn their lives around,
Yeah.
become productive members of society?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. It is. So what happened next? Did anything change in light of all these unintended consequences?
Well, as the flaws in the Three Strikes Law became more apparent, public opinion started to shift,
Yeah.
and people really began to question whether the price of safety was just too high
If it meant
if it meant locking people up for life over minor offenses.
right.
And
Yeah.
and in 2012, after years of advocacy and legal challenges,
Yeah.
California voters, they finally approved Proposition 36,
Okay. And what did that do?
which significantly amended the Three Strikes Law.
Okay. So what did those amendments change about the law?
So the most significant change was that the third strike that triggered a life sentence, it had to be a serious or violent felony.
Okay, so that meant that someone like Jerry Dwayne Williams,
Right.
whose third strike was stealing a slice of pizza, he wouldn't face a life sentence anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the whole point of the amendment. And they also create a process for some individuals already serving life sentences under the old law to petition for resentencing.
Okay, so there was some recognition then that the original law went too far.
Definitely.
But did this resolve all of the issues with the three strikes law?
Well, it's tough to say.
Yeah.
The amendments were definitely a step towards a more balanced approach, I think. But the debate over the Three Strikes Law, I mean, it continues.
It does, yeah.
I mean, there are still some people who argue that even with the changes, the law is still too harsh, and that it contributes to mass incarceration, particularly among minorities.
Yeah.
But then you have others who believe that it's still a necessary tool for keeping dangerous criminals off the streets.
So it sounds like this is one of those issues where there isn't really a simple answer.
I think that's right.
A clear right or wrong.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's really complicated.
And I think the Poly-Class case and the three strikes law, they really force us to confront some really difficult questions.
Yeah.
About, the balance between safety and justice.
Absolutely.
Between punishment and rehabilitation.
Right.
How do we protect society from those who pose a real threat?
Right.
While also ensuring that punishments are proportionate.
Right.
And fair.
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I have to say, this deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's a heavy one.
It's a heavy one. We started with the horror of Polly's abduction,
right.
And we've ended up exploring the complexities of the criminal justice system and the unintended consequences of well-intentioned laws.
Absolutely. And I think the key takeaway here is that even in our pursuit of justice,
right.
we have to remain vigilant against policies that might actually create more harm than good.
Right.
And the Three Strikes Law, even with the amendments, it really serves as this cautionary tale about the importance of considering, all sides of an issue and really thinking about the potential for those unintended consequences.
So for anyone listening who wants to learn more about this, where should they start?
Well, I would encourage you to research the Three Strikes Law in your own state.
Okay.
See how it compares to California's law. Look into the current crime rates in California. See how they've been affected by the amendments to the law, and read about the lives of individuals like Jerry Dwayne Williams who were sentenced under that original law.
Real people,
yeah.
Whose lives were profoundly impacted by this legislation.
Absolutely.
No, this has been a truly impactful deep dive. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
We've seen how one tragic case can have these ripple effects,
right,
leading to legal changes that impact countless lives. It's a reminder that understanding the nuances of these issues is crucial for creating a more just and equitable society.
And remember, there are no easy answers here.
No.
But engaging in informed and thoughtful dialogue, that's the first step towards finding solutions.
I love that.
So, consider your own beliefs about the role of punishment.
Yeah.
The importance of rehabilitation and the balance between public safety and individual rights.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it has, inspired you to learn more and to think critically about the complexities of the justice system.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.